It's just support, Tom!
Alright, we're back with round number 2 of our Pioneer event here at Carlar, and we have Golgari Superfriends versus Naya Infinite here. I'm gonna need a lot of help in this because I'm in the blind for Pioneer stuff.
That uptick again, discard your Phantasmal Imagery and Burial Rites and do a bunch of things like that. But this is Pioneer, and this is a turn 1 Thoughtseize from Frenchie, which we're pretty used to seeing.
Yeah, I mean, the way that Frenchie also set up with the smiley face to flip over the right card to win when the game starts.
This is a Duncan Mulligan to 5, and we're going to see Jaspera Sentinel, Volcanic Spite, and Kellen joins up, I believe is what that card is.
Is that the elf?
Jaspera Sentinel's the elf that basically taps another creature, lets you make a mana. We see Amara, Soul of the Accord, as a way for Duncan to generate a bunch of tokens this way. But we see on Frenchie's side just Golgari good stuff. Mosswood Dread Knight comes out. This is a 3-2 beater. Doesn't even really need to have the card advantage at this point because Frenchie thinks, all right, my opponent's on a mulligan to 5. They're not doing anything for the first couple of turns. And if he does a play like this with Volcanic Spite, we are going to wind up seeing Duncan being able, Frenchie being able to just utilize the adventure side later on anyway.
Is that a Volcanic Spike?
Yeah, Volcanic Spite. Just gonna shuffle something back away. Looks like Duncan maybe getting rid of the Kellen joins up, so that because there's nothing else that he's gonna be able to do, so just shuffles that one away and replaces it with a card he could potentially cast.
So Restless College tap, pass, go.
Yeah, and we saw Frenchie wind up utilizing the adventure side of Mosswood Dread Knight there because it wound up dying before damage was dealt and can just play it for its adventure cost until end of turn and then be able to do that. But
Magda?
Yep. All right. You know a bit about Magda, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I only know about Magda because it's a very interesting Magda deck on stream played by Brandon Chen not too long ago. So Magda, there's so many different versions. So which one's this one?
This is Magda the Outlaw, I think. It's the original Magda, Brazen Outlaw. That's what it is. So this is piece 1 of Duncan's Infinite combo. So Magda Brazen Outlaw, it says right here, dwarves get +1/+0, or other dwarves. Whenever a dwarf you control becomes tapped, you create a treasure token. You can sack 5 treasures and search for an artifact or a dragon. Step 1 is play Magda. Step 2 is play Maskwood Nexus. Maskwood Nexus makes all of your creatures changelings, which means they're all dwarves. Even in your library, that also makes them all dragons. So now you can tutor for anything in your deck.
Well, we're going to have double Mosswood Dread Knight played out from Frenchie here, and that is
Amara, Soul of the Accord. So this is going to be a card that is sort of an engine piece for Duncan's deck. This is going to be able to, with that Jaspera Sentinel that Frenchie discarded on turn 1, be a source of tokens, which can eventually become dwarves, which can eventually tap with Magda, make treasures, etc., etc. So this is just like the go-wide token angle of Duncan's deck, and Amara with Crew is also a way that you can generate additional board presence. But Frenchie here, Sorin the Mirthless comes down, so this guy's not too happy to see an opponent on the opposite side of the battlefield, but this is just basically going to either create tokens or be something that Frenchie can use to generate card advantage.
I think it's
so a 2/3. It looks like we're minus to make a 2/3 flying vampire here with lifelink as well.
Might be one of the few tokens we don't have in the box.
Yeah, that's a bit of a niche one. So, I mean, I think we probably might actually have one. It's gonna dig really hard for it.
Yeah, so Sorin just going to be able to kind of match the token generation from Duncan's side, which is a nice little defensive measure here from Frenchie. Most importantly, this token has flying and lifelink, so it's going to be able to swing through uninhibited, but it's also going to be able to block and gain life profitably. So we are going to see Duncan just attacking here to get the tap triggers. Oh, we have Duncan's side of the battlefield. This is a card from Dominaria United. I keep forgetting the name of it. It's the Signpost Uncommon, and basically it has power and toughness equal to the number of creatures you control.
Okay.
So this Selesnya Uncommon card from Dominaria United is basically going to be the win condition for Duncan's deck, believe it or not. He basically flings this card at your face after you have an infinite number of tokens on the battlefield, hence the Naya Infinite part of the combo. But Duncan, most importantly, has gotten this Sorin off the battlefield from Frenchie's side. Frenchie recognizing, okay, I've seen this deck before. You need Magda to find your Maskwood Nexus. Otherwise, you're just kind of a mid-rangey token aggro deck. So if Frenchie just has removal or bodies to put in the way, they're gonna be fine to block through with this battlefield. So they trade off with the Magda instead.
I mean, yeah, also, we have a Hive. I mean, we have Witch's Cottage. We have Castle Lockling and Hive Eye Tired. A lot of very nice utility lands here if you're just gonna do nothing really. But without the Sorin, we just have two Monster Jedi and the 2/3 Flying Lifelinker here. I'm not too sure what exactly is in Frenchie deck here, but I think this board state you're probably kind of fine with as of now.
Yeah, so Frenchie's is actually going to swing out here. So recognizes that there's a 4/4 and a couple of 1/1s on the opposite side of the battlefield. So just going to be swinging in with 2 3/2s and a 2/3. Potentially, look, I don't think there's any sort of ping effects in Frenchie's deck, so this is probably just going to be an aggressive plan to try to deal as much damage to Duncan as possible, since Duncan is already down at 9 life. So Frenchie just going to be gaining a little bit of life off of this Vampire token, and now, unless Duncan combos, it's very unlikely that Frenchie dies from this point.
It looks like we can go on an adventure with the Mosswood Dread Knight here, which is a nice lose life draw card, I'm pretty sure.
Not too shabby. We had 22 at some point.
I'm
just going to replay
anyway.
it. Yeah,
might as well.
So these attacks are basically free for Frenchie as long as Duncan has nothing to combat the adventure graveyard synergy of the Mosswood Dread Knight.
I mean, I think we know the one card in hand here is the... Oh, actually, wait. What happened to the Annie joins up?
He put that back on the bottom of his library with the Volcanic Spike.
Ah, okay.
Which is why he was playing non-revealed anymore. But Duncan has a second Magda in hand. Didn't quite see what that white card that he drew was, but thinking back as to the list of what Duncan had played previous weeks, I'm not entirely sure.
Salvation.
Okay, so that's the protection spell that... Duncan loves main decking this one because of the amount of vampires that used to exist in the format, but now we're in a different format. So this is actually still a house against Frenchie's deck because this is protection from black. However, there's a ton of green creatures on Frenchie's side right now. It's unfortunate for Duncan.
Oh, yeah. So we're going to go into... Looks like we're swinging in. We're going into blocks here. Frenchie's going to take... Actually, Frenchie's going to gain 5... Sorry, not take 5. Going to take 5, not gain 5. And
I think it should be 6 altogether. Yeah, go down to 15 here because we wind up having an additional token being generated from Amara tapping. But now we got Magda back on the battlefield, so one Maskwood Nexus could be scary here. But we know that Duncan's last card is that Surge of Salvation. Frenchie just gonna value engine with these Mosswood Dread Knights. I mean, Mosswood Dread Knight in this list specifically is great because when you're playing a bunch of Planeswalkers and Super Friends, you just need things to protect them. And if you just throw these Mosswood Dread Knights away in blocking and in combat, it winds up working to preserve your life total and preserve your Planeswalkers, and they just have an upside of just casting them over and over again. It's almost like a Scrap Heap Scrounger that can block.
Yeah, that's pretty... You're not wrong, actually. I mean, you're drawing a card. Worst case scenario, you're drawing a card with Mosswood at Night.
Yeah.
And it's also like, it's a free attack, which is also very, very nice here. But Frenchie here, going to declare attacks here, swinging with the 2/3 Vampire. So we're going to take 2, go down to 7 on Duncan's end, and Frenchie's going to gain 2. And we're going to look at what this uncommon is from Dominator United.
Yeah, you can kind of see why I didn't remember this
name.
Oh,
yeah. This name is quite the mouthful here.
Queen Elenial of Ruderak. That's what I'm going with.
This one again.
It's just the queen because this is not only the most powerful piece on the chessboard that Duncan's deck has assembled, but is the way that he winds up winning the game. But this is now a Wrenn and Realmbreaker from Frenchie. We've seen. I've talked to Frenchie a little bit about what Wrenn and Realmbreaker can do in this deck. In addition to fixing your mana in a circumstance where you may be kind of low on black sources, you wind up creating a bunch of additional blockers and everything. But most importantly, you find the Innkeeper's talent off of this.
Looks like we have a Caustic Bronco come into the graveyard here. Very spicy card here from Alexander Junction. That is a pretty good value engine for a Saddle 3.
Yeah, the Caustic Bronco is just another card advantage engine alongside the Sorin and the Mosswood Dread Knights that you're going to be able to utilize. But Frenchie did wind up putting a talent into their hand, which is one of those cards that, as the Innkeeper's talent, that's going to be the engine for the Super Friends, which is basically going to be the way that you double the token, double the loyalty counters when they come into play. And with Frenchie's current setup, they can just wind up playing the talent for 2, leveling it up for 1, and then immediately activating it to get that doubling season type effect.
Looks like now we're going to go on Duncan's attack, going to declare attacks here. We're going to be swinging with the Queen and a handful of tokens here at red.
Did we play an Annie as well? Is that what that card is on Duncan's side?
I think that's Annie Flash the Veteran, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it might be. I mean,
it is Annie Flash the Veteran, I'm pretty sure.
I don't know how he played that without 6 mana, though, so it might be something different that I'm just not able to identify from our current vantage point. But this is a huge swing in anyway. So this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, a 7/7 for the Queen. And then it looks like just swinging with 3 additional tokens. 1 gets chump blocked, and then the rest are just going to wind up powering through and swinging down at the Ren.
So we're going to, I think we're trying to calculate on damage here.
Oh, yeah, you're correct.
I think, yeah, clarifying that a monster drill should still be alive here.
Yeah, it's only 1/1s right now because they're not dwarves, so they don't get the +1/+0 from Magda. And I believe Duncan is at 6 now?
Oh, yes.
All right, and so Frenchie going to wind up doing the talent thing, putting it all the way up to 3, and this is just going to start doubling any counters that wind up coming down.
Oh, man, this card is... was a pretty strong set, I would say. Surprisingly,
It was pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Like on the surface, I think me and other people in the store were like, "Oh, this is a very weak set.
No.
Not a lot of support."
No.
And then as the weeks went on, a lot of these enchantments are pretty good, apparently.
Yeah, so not only this, but now on combat, you're going to put a +1/+1 counter on a creature. So this is going to wind up going down onto the flying vampire. Now, also, permanents you control with counters on them have ward 1. So that means that if Duncan wants to target this with a 2 mana removal spell, it's going to cost 3, etc., etc. So, like, pseudo protection here from Frenchie's side. But this means that 1 more combat step is lethal unless Duncan can present lethal of his own or a flying blocker for this vampire, which is now just a 4/6.
Is there any way that Duncan can infinite combo out with the pieces he has?
I'm not entirely sure. Depending on what that last card that Duncan has on the battlefield, I mean, this could wind up being the thing that creates copies of tokens, in which case that could just give him additional 1/1s right now, which isn't exactly where you want to be. Duncan may need to try to attack through with a bunch of damage, and then it's only the Surge of Salvation, so Duncan actually doesn't have it, but maybe being able to get Frenchie to not block there and then fling the Queen was an avenue to victory, but Duncan didn't have it, and Frenchie's taking the first game here.
So this looks like, you know, lethal on board being presented here. Very nice to see. But I didn't really see much of the Super Friends happening on Frenchie's end here.
No, it was just kind of Golgari good stuff, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it was just like very good cards. I will play my hand out. I will keep on replaying my Monster Dread Knight. Oh, okay, Duncan, I guess you don't have enough. I will just swing with my vampire that I made with my Sorin Minus.
Yeah, the power and toughness of Frenchie's cards was just kind of good enough to do the good thing for Frenchie's deck there. A 3/2 with Trample lines up very well against a bunch of 1/1s from Duncan's side, and even the actual threats that Duncan was able to present that game were only 2 toughness at most point. Even though he had the Queen, it wasn't big enough on its own to ever really pressure Frenchie's life total, since Duncan kept having to lose tokens through combat.
Well, let's take a look into the deck that Frenchie has here. The Golgari Super Friends deck here, and you're playing with 3 Lilianas, the 2 Renin and Realm Waker, 2 Sword. Is that Vraska? I see.
Yep. That's the Vraska Betrayal Sting. That's the combo there with the Innkeeper's Talent. This is the thing that is kind of running amok in Standard right now. You put Innkeeper's Talent up to its final form, and then it doubles all the counters. So Vraska Betrayal Sting comes into play with anywhere between 10 and 12 counters on it. -9 ability from Vraska Betrayal Sting is if a player has less than 9 poison counters on them, they get the difference added to there. So if there's 0, you get 9, so that immediately, and then Vraska normally would have to proliferate the following turn to kill an opponent. However, with Innkeeper's Talent, it also doubles all the poison counters, so now Vraska is just lethal.
So looking at the sideboard here from Frenchie, I'm gonna expect maybe you play maybe one Path to Peril, since it's not really the most valuable thing because you kind of want to keep your board, but maybe you do bring in both here. I definitely see those Extinction events coming in, naming what, odd to hit the tokens.
It's an Extinction event on even hits all the
even,
tokens.
okay.
It does also hit Magda, it hits Amara, it hits a lot of things from Duncan's side. Path to Peril hits everything except for the Queen and Ziatora, which is another win condition from Duncan's deck if he's still running it. So that's going to just be something I would automatically include. Cut down is appetizing here, but I don't think you want to be putting too much removal in your deck. You can probably wind up thinking, okay, Duncan's deck has a combo inside of it, but I can deal with it on the battlefield, so maybe you take out your Thought Seizes and put in your Disruption there. And I can maybe see Terra Sunders coming in because Duncan does have some vehicles in his deck, if Frenchie's very aware of that. Otherwise, I think basically you're playing protect your own Super Friends and let the combo and the Mosswood Dread Knights do the dirty work for you.
Oh yeah, I think also too Fatal Pushes is probably more good enough.
Yeah, I mean, you already have 4 Fatal Pushes in the side from Frenchie's deck, so that's also a very good plan to have. You probably keep the Shieldred. I mean, the Costgate Broncos, although they are really good card advantage and can eventually deal a lot of damage by saddling up and like revealing a Vraska to dome Duncan for 6, I don't know if you actually need them in this matchup. You could just replace that with the removal, and all of a sudden the only thing you're killing from your side with Path to Peril is Mosswood Dread Knight, which we saw not be a liability at all for Frenchie.
Oh, yeah. Also, I can see Frenchie also taking all of the Cosmic Bronco and playing 3 of the Duresses here, seeing that we are going potentially into more of a combo style deck than the typical make tokens go wide from Duncan.
Well, the thing of it is Duncan doesn't want to have the Maskwood Nexus in his hand. He wants it to be in his deck, which being 80 cards, it most likely is going to be in the deck.
Oh, yeah.
And the combo is actually all generated through creatures. You have Amara to make tokens, you have Magda to create treasures, you have Magda as the way to actually search for things, and the only real cards you can hit with Duress are going to be things like Fable the Mirror Breaker, and if you draw that Maskwood Nexus, or if Duncan has like Surge of Salvation and stuff that he's keeping in after game 1.
Not too sure what Frenchie is doing here. Oh, we're just gonna do mulligans. Frenchie putting some dice down and signifying that they are at 7 cards and Duncan's at 6.
Yeah, Duncan unfortunately did mulligan 2-5 on the draw and then get turn 1 Thought Seized, so that Jaspara Sentinel going the way of the Dodo Bird was unfortunate for Duncan because that meant that his engine was taken away for the acceleration of mana. Jaspera Sentinel and Magda means that you play Jaspera Sentinel, you play Magda, you tap Magda for mana, which generates a token, so all of a sudden Magda is tapping for 2, in theory, instead of just 1 mana, and you're able to really power through multiple of your creature combo cards in a single turn, which protects you from interaction, but
looks like Duncan might have to just mulligan here. Looks like only a 1 lander. The problems, I guess, of an 80 card deck is going to go down to 5 now on the play.
At least Duncan's on the play, so if there's a land Jaspera Sentinel, you can do that. There's also Sentinel Scout, I think, is the other elf. It's the same exact thing as Jaspera Sentinel. It's one of those cards from like Brothers War, so it's spelled weird and starts with it's like Citnual or something like that.
Oh, really?
But so it's a 1/1 elf. But it's going to tap another creature or an artifact to generate a mana of any color. So very similar to Jaspera Sentinel, also kind of functions as a Springleaf Drum if you have other artifacts in your deck, which we do know that Duncan has because we saw a Seeker's Chariot, we've seen treasure tokens and stuff, so you can wind up generating a little extra value off of that. So either one of those 1 mana mana dorks into a Magda or an Amara is what Duncan is looking here from a mulligan.
Looks like he has 3 lands here in Duncan's hand here. We're actually a bottom land, but 2 lands good enough. So that's a good keep to have, especially when down to 5 here, but looks like we probably have a land go here, most likely from Duncan.
And I think I saw Magda in hand as well, so this is like not the optimal hand. Oh, but no turn 1 Thoughtseize from Frenchie means, you know, there could still be turn 1 Fatal Push. We actually see a cut down in Frenchie's deck and a Fatal Push, so this Amara is not long for this world.
Yeah. Also, too, I did see a unlicensed Hearse, I think, in Duncan's hand here. So I might be seeing that dropped, I think, probably right now, which we are going to see it. after seeing the the Mosswood Dread Knights, I guess you might just be thinking we gotta deal with that.
Yeah, the Unlicensed Source is coming in for that, but it's also just a way to create treasure tokens of Magda. So if Frenchie, oh, there's a Thoughtseize, so Magda's going away now. You see Gala Greeters, a second Hearse, and the Magda. Frenchie probably just takes the Magda here and leaves the Gala Greeters, especially if there's a Fatal Push. You can wind up responding to either killing the Unlicensed Hearse or killing the Gala Greeters if you really want to just strand Duncan with nothing but graveyard hate.
I think we're gonna go with the Mana Rock here, though, saying that we are pinched on mana.
So Gala Greeters definitely means that there's no treasure token coming out from Duncan next turn. However, Frenchie does still have Fatal Push in hand, so Duncan will be able to create a treasure token with Magda, so I guess going to wind up getting a treasure either way, Frenchie discarded.
Well, if we just top deck a land here, we can just play out Magda and then also with the treasure token, right? It's potentially soon. But I think we're gonna have a push here anyway.
Yeah, so you just get an activation and response that crews the Unlicensed Source with no black mana available from Frenchie. We're not worried about that getting pushed or anything, but that does just generate a treasure token. So now from Duncan's side, if you're able to top deck something, you can just have 4 mana available, so you can basically play anything from your deck that isn't Ziatora.
Well, Caustic Bronco being jammed out here. Looks like our sideboarding, theories were a little bit off here since we also did see the cut down. But Caustic Bronco, when it attacks, you're gonna reveal the top card of your library, put it into your hand. You lose life equal to that card's main value.
So greatness at any cost. This is Dark Confidant Snorse. Unless you saddle it, in which case it starts doming your opponent in the face. So that's going to be a very powerful effect to see there. We are going to have Duncan just removing cards from Frenchie's graveyard here, hoping to build up this Unlicensed into an eventual threat. We have a second Hearse as well, so we can just kind of get rid of everything in everybody's graveyard, but Duncan did just have 1 card in hand and pass the turn, so not a creature to generate value off of these.
Now, Frenchie here has the Eye Tyrant here. I mean, we can just probably start attacking with the Caustic Bronco here. Gonna take down to 18 here, now 18 all. So we're gonna have potentially a long goodbye? No, that is not correct. I had probably a Liliana here if I'm correct. Oh, actually Ren.
Ren and Realmbreaker. All right, so we're gonna start probably generating some permanents from our milling factor here. Looks like that is, I think that's the Vraska that we got there. It's one of those arts that's very difficult to read, but considering it was one of those OB1 cards, we can kind of see with all those inky things there that it's probably going to be there. So if we have Caretaker's Talent to come out, we can slowly level that up over 2 turns. We can generate some extra mana with our Ren eventually, and then we can just wind up kind of going off from there. But we'll see if that's what the path Frenchie takes, because Duncan doesn't have anything right now.
Yeah, this thing looks like it. We're going to tap 4 here, and I forgot what that land is. So
that's tokens on. So we're getting some tokens that can potentially crew our Unlicensed Sources, which are pretty big.
Yeah, they're pretty large.
They also have haste. So, but Frenchie is representing a 1 mana removal spell. So, ooh, if he has it here, that's big value.
No, the push on the Hearse here is brutal. You hate to see it, but now Frenchie's pretty much in the driver's seat here. I think there's a way. It's gonna be really hard for Duncan to even come back in this game.
Yeah, Duncan only has 1 Hearse with a counter on it now. There's an active Ren and Realmbreaker, and we know that Vraska can kind of come down at any point in time. Can't quite threaten the combo right now, but just a Vraska proliferating anything that Frenchie wants is also going to be powerful. It means that this Ren is going to be ticking up twice, and eventually you wind up getting basically Retrace. You can play lands and permanents from your graveyard with the emblem from Ren. But we also have the ability to start activating this Hive of the Eye Tyrant, as we see Frenchie going for now, which can fight the Hearse's food and strand this as only gaining 1 per turn.
Oh yeah, I mean, we're gonna swing in here with what? All right, it's a 4. Her was it? High Election's a 4 for him. I can't.
It's a 3/3. It's a 3/3 in Menace.
Ah, okay. There's a 3/3 here. ETB, attack trigger, exile a card, I'm pretty sure. Duncan's gonna do no blocks, go to 13 here. And we're gonna play the Versailles? What's the name of this card again?
Oh, this is Vraska.
Vraska.
This is the Vraska Betrayal Sting. So that's just using the 0 ability to proliferate and draw a card. And this is going to basically be the top end of Frenchie's deck. It's also the thing that synergizes the best with Caretaker's, Innkeeper's talent. But worst case scenario, Vraska can just proliferate all the other Super Friends. Vraska can just start turning any threats that Duncan has into treasures, which isn't the worst thing for Duncan when you're stranded on mana, but is also not the worst thing when Magda wants to sacrifice treasures to find things. But we'll have to see if Duncan even gets that far, because Frenchie is not only presenting the Super Friend combo here, but a potential clock as Renin Realmbreaker can start making lands into 3/3s. There's a 3/3 Hive of the Eye Tyrant that you can keep pumping up, and you can, of course, saddle the Bronco to start flipping Planeswalkers and doming Duncan for 4 or 5 extra.
Oh yeah, so look like I have a pass go from Duncan here. Really debating to play out the card that we drew for turn. But Pasco, waiting till we see something from Frenchie here. Is that another Fatal Push for your top deck?
I mean, you're a green-black mid-range deck. You're going to have plenty of removal.
Oh, yeah. So we're going to plus... Oh, sorry. That's on mine. Do we go up on all... Oh, are we proliferating? Oh,
yeah, Vraska's a +0.
Oh.
So it proliferates whatever you're going to target. So that can target itself and then target the Renin Realmbreaker as well. So Renin Realmbreaker can, in theory, wind up going up twice in a single turn from its own +1 ability. It looks like Frenchie, though, is going to wind up...
That's the peril!
All right, just wants to clear the battlefield here and just have nothing but the lands and the 3/3s that Renin Realmbreaker can make be the things on the battlefield. This also shuts off Duncan's unlicensed terrace.
So we're going to plus Renin Realmbreaker on a land. We're going to swing for, what is that?
3 altogether.
Go down to 10 for Duncan's end here. We're going to have how many cards in hand? Probably 5 cards in hand for Frenchie. Pass. We're going to end step activate the hearse. Eat up two cards here. Probably going to eat up the Bronco and Path to Peril.
Yeah, just probably want to get rid of permanents in Frenchie's graveyard first and foremost so that Renin Realmbreaker can't get them back. But Duncan, yeah, just kind of fans out the hand there. Doesn't have anything.
So 2-0 for Frenchie here on Golgari Superfriends here. It's the problem with the 80 card deck at times. A lot of your top decks are just not going to line up as well.
Yeah, and there was some interesting tech in there, I think.